At 6:33 a.m. on Sunday, April 25th of 2010, police received a phone call from a frantic man claiming that someone had broken into his home and shot him and his wife. When investigators got there, they discovered an awful scene, but things obviously weren't as they seemed. This is the case of Heidi Firkus. Hello, friend, and welcome to High Time Crime. My name's Joel, and on here I specialize in true crime and also professional photography. I just took this photo of myself. It came out great. But today we're going over the case of Heidi Firkus and her husband of the time, Nick Firkus. You're going to learn about a man who got away with cold-blooded murder for about 11 years. For our story, we're heading to St. Paul, Minnesota. With a population of around 307,000 people as of 2021, it's the 67th largest city in the United States and the second most populated city in Minnesota, also being the state capital. Burial mounds that are located in Indian Mounds Park suggest that the area was inhabited by the Hopewell Native Americans around 2,000 years ago. But St. Paul wasn't incorporated as a city until 1854, and from then on, well, more things became established. Nowadays, if you're ever in the area, there's a plethora of things to do. You could visit the Science Museum of Minnesota and see a bunch of awesome exhibits. You could take a trip on down to the Fitzgerald Theater and watch a live performance. If you want to learn about the history of Minnesota, well, you could visit the Minnesota History Center and do that. Sadly, none of these extraordinarily fun things are the reason as to why we're in St. Paul today. Heidi Marie Firkus was born on December 14th of 1984 to John and Linda Erickson. She was always very happy and loved life, God, her friends, and family, and she constantly saw the best in people. Heidi was an artist who would make handmade cards and fill them with positive messages for people that were closest to her. She went to Roseville Area High School, and it was here that she played basketball and tennis and was also in the choir. Overall, Heidi was looked at as a very lovely, goofy, and artistic person. She graduated high school in 2003 and then went to the University of Northwestern, located in Roseville. At the same time as this, Heidi was attending a church in the city called the Calvary Church. She had been going here for a long time with her family while growing up. It was here that she met a man, and together they'd serve as church youth group leaders. His name was Nicholas Firkus. Nicholas James Firkus was born on February 25th of 1983 to Julie and Steve Firkus. Not too much is known about his early childhood, so we'll skip to around the time he met Heidi. Nick was the director of operations at a carpet cleaning company and was considered to be a well-rounded individual. He got married to Heidi when he was 22 years old, and she was 20 in 2005 at the church they met. Both of their families were very active there. Nick and Heidi's marriage to the outside world was pretty much flawless. The couple loved traveling and biking together. They were both involved in their church, and they loved throwing dinner parties. Heidi had just recently started an administrative position at a financial services firm where her father worked. And by all accounts, Nick and Heidi's relationship appeared to be great and was only getting better. But unfortunately, in these stories, it always appears like that. Everything is always better than it seems. Things are about to really take a turn for the worse. On Sunday, April 25th of 2010 at 6:31 a.m., 911 dispatch received 2 hang-up phone calls from a cell phone registered to Heidi Firkus. 1 minute later, at 6:32, Heidi called 911 and spoke with an operator. In this call, she said that someone was trying to break into her house. 38 seconds into the call, as Heidi was giving the dispatcher her address, she yelled, "No!" And then a gunshot was heard, and then Heidi stopped talking, and then the line went dead. Before the gunshot was heard, Heidi never said anything that suggested that the intruder entered the home. There also wasn't a significant amount of background noise either. 1 minute would pass, and at 6:33 a.m., Nick Firkus called 911 on Heidi's phone. He was incredibly distraught and said someone had broken into their home and that he and Heidi had been shot while trying to run out of the back to their garage. The phone call lasted for about 7 minutes, and towards the end, the police were heard entering the house. When police entered the home, there was a fresh smell of gunpowder in the air, and Heidi was deceased in the kitchen. Nick was next to her on the phone talking to the 911 operator, and he was suffering from a gunshot wound to his upper left leg. He was taken to a local hospital where he was treated for his injury. The wound was a through-and-through gunshot wound, and there was no evidence of any bad bleeding or severe injuries. The staff noted that Nick was hysterical throughout this exam, and he was crying very loudly. He was treated and released within a 3-hour period. Nick was interviewed at the hospital about what happened, but he was interviewed at the police station also. That one was more detailed. Nick began the interview by recalling everything that happened, including the night prior. He said that the night before the shooting, him and Heidi watched a movie and both had glasses of wine. They went to bed around midnight, and Nick woke up around 6:10 to 6:15 a.m. after hearing the screen door open and someone fiddling with the doorknob. The investigators asked Nick if he set the deadbolt, and he said that him and Heidi are usually pretty religious about locking the deadbolt, but that he thinks that he forgot to lock it that night. After hearing these noises, Nick then grabbed his shotgun out of the upstairs closet. He said that he had brought it up from the basement about a month earlier because the gun was starting to rust. Nick also said that the shotgun was unloaded, but as soon as he heard the noises, he loaded it. So after that, he went and woke up Heidi and told her to call 911 and try to leave the house and head for the garage where their cars were parked. Nick said that this was a safety plan that he and Heidi decided upon just in case they ever ran into any trouble. Nick's right-handed and was carrying a pair of jeans in his right hand and was carrying a shotgun in his left while walking behind Heidi trying to get her to go. Nick said that him and Heidi stopped next to the front door to grab her wallet, which was on the table. He said that it was at this moment that the door flew open and a black guy around 6'1", who was 200 to 220 pounds, with a dark hooded sweatshirt that had the hood drawn tight around his face, came barging through. Nick said that he dropped the jeans and the guy grabbed the barrel of the shotgun. The two of them then got into a wrestling match and his fingers slipped onto the trigger and it went off. Nick said that the shot hit Heidi and she went straight down, and that him and the suspect continued fighting over the shotgun until it went off for a second time. This time, it hit Nick in the upper thigh, and he said that he fell down, and then the guy ran out the front door. Nick said that he then went over to Heidi, rolled her over, and she was limp. But the one thing that Nick told investigators that really just put the nail in the coffin was this. It was that his and Heidi's house was being foreclosed on the next day, and they had to leave. That they planned on telling their parents and friends that day. Nick said that him and Heidi were behind on their bills and that their house had been foreclosed on and already purchased, and they had to be out of the house. He said that they didn't tell any of their friends or family about the foreclosure or that they needed to be out of the house. Nick said that they planned to pack up their house on Sunday and Monday morning, put some of their belongings in the garage to obtain later, and then find someone to stay with for a bit. He said that there was fraud happening on their conjoined bank account and that Heidi went shopping at the Mall of America the day before, but since they were on a tight budget, he could only give her $30 to $40 to spend. But in reality, what actually happened that night and months prior is about to be revealed. In reality, Heidi never knew that the house was being foreclosed on or that they had to leave. Nick and Heidi purchased their home in August of 2007 for $215,000 using 2 mortgages. The primary mortgage had a monthly payment of $1,300, while the second mortgage was about $250. Within only a year and 1 month, in September of 2008, they made their last payment. A few months would pass, and on April 30th of 2009, Nick was personally served with foreclosure documents. He didn't tell anyone, and a month and a few days later, on June 4th, the house was sold at a sheriff's auction. So basically, the house was sold out from under them because they stopped making payments, but Heidi didn't know. On January 29th of 2010, a representative from the law firm that was handling their foreclosure reached out to Nick by phone and offered him $4,000 in cash if they vacated the house by February 18th of this same year, or $2,500 in cash if they vacated by March 20th. Nick refused both of these offers. On February 12th of 2010, eviction proceedings were filed and an eviction hearing was held on March 8th. Nick attended this hearing by himself. Heidi didn't go because Nick said that she was busy. Nick then signed an agreement to vacate the house by March 22nd of 2010. But they didn't do that, and so the law firm sent Nick a letter saying that they were going to change the locks on April 9th. On April 6th of 2010, 3 days before the couple was going to be kicked out, Nick called the law firm. He told them that his grandmother was in hospice, that her death was coming, and that they needed a few extra weeks to vacate the house. The law firm was obviously fed up, but they agreed and rescheduled to change the locks at noon on Monday, April 26th of 2010. The thing is, though, there's zero evidence that either of Nick's grandmothers were in hospice or died in 2010. They both, by all accounts, lived happy and healthy this year. So you can already see where all of this is heading, and obviously, it's not good. Nick and Heidi's financial problems stretched pretty far and kind of for unknown reasons. It's known that they both had decent paying jobs, so when it came down to bills and what happened, that's not talked about. The couple had a conjoined bank account and it was overdrawn by $434.93. The bank closed this account on January 8th of 2010, and at the time of Heidi's death, they owed the bank a total of $1,736.31. In addition to this, they owed $17,381.66 on a credit card. When investigators looked into the credit card charges, it showed that Nick used the card 2.4 times more than Heidi did. Nick and Heidi had the same insurance, and the agent was actually a longtime friend of Heidi's parents. Before Heidi married Nick, her car insurance was paid up to date every single time. However, after the marriage, the agent started to only communicate with Nick regarding all insurance matters. This included renters, homeowners, and vehicle insurance. The agent said that the insurance company called the Firkuses when they were contacted about the foreclosure, and they then canceled their insurance. The agent then said that he spoke with Nick on the phone about the cancellation, and Nick told him that the foreclosure happened because a teller at the bank was stealing his paychecks. The agent said that he didn't believe Nick's story, and that he explained to Nick that foreclosure involves a long and tedious process. The agent just assumed that Nick was embarrassed about this, and so he didn't press him on it. The agent also received another cancellation notice, this time for Heidi and Nick's vehicles. He just assumed that the couple switched insurance agents and ghosted him. Now, what Nick was actually doing with all of this money, we don't know. We do, however, know some other very interesting things. On February 12th of 2010, the same day the eviction proceedings were filed against the couple, Heidi and Nick went on a 5-day trip to Hawaii. Heidi told her mother that Nick was getting a bonus at work that would help pay for the trip. They spent $3,500 while on the trip, and one of the tickets, which was worth $752, was paid for by Nick's father. In emails between March and April of 2010, Heidi was constantly asking Nick to handle and respond to creditor phone calls that she was receiving while at work. Nick told her that he was taking care of it and that he was in contact with the bank regarding an audit involving fraud with their account. Nick told Heidi that their credit scores were good, but there was zero evidence the bank conducted any audits or that fraud was related to the account. Nick was just lying about everything, and once again, Heidi had no idea. She didn't know that the house was being foreclosed on. She thought the exact opposite. Heidi did talk to her mother about potentially selling their house to move into an apartment, but that was about it. Nick had taken control of everything in her life. On March 10th of 2010, Heidi and Nick visited the Calhoun Beach Club and toured 2 apartments with the monthly rent being $1,400 and $2,200. The agent from this club talked to Heidi about her desire to sell her house and move into the city. By this time, though, their house had already been foreclosed on and sold at an auction. They didn't have a house to sell. The investigators scoured through the emails sent between Heidi and Nick, and they found some things that really helped paint a better picture. There wasn't a single message between them that references foreclosure or eviction proceedings or anything relevant to them having to move out of their house. If anything, there's only things that dispute that. On March 11th of 2010, Heidi sent an email to a friend that said, "Wish we weren't tied down to our house so we could move somewhere fun." This very clearly indicates that Heidi had thought they owned the house. Heidi also never spoke to a single family member, friend, coworker, or anyone about foreclosure, eviction, or needing a place to stay. When the police took photos and videos inside the Firkus household after Heidi's death, there was 0 packing that was done. This was despite the fact that they had to be out of the house the next day. Another thing was that Heidi was scheduled to work on Monday, April 26th, which is the day that they had to move. Oh, and she also didn't request off. On Thursday, April 22nd of 2010, Heidi was in contact with a friend about making plans to get a pedicure on Sunday afternoon, which was April 25th. In the conversation, Heidi was given the option of either going Sunday or the following Wednesday. Heidi chose Sunday and suggested that they all go to church together that Sunday morning. If you remember, Nick told the investigators that him and Heidi were going to be packing Sunday morning. In this same month, or April of 2010, Heidi and Nick had emailed each other multiple times regarding scheduling a meeting with their realtor who had helped them buy their house. Nick told Heidi that he was in contact with him, and on April 23rd, Heidi sent Nick an email asking whether or not he heard from the realtor, and Nick replied saying that he did, and that the realtor was ready to meet when they were, and that Monday should be good. The police interviewed the realtor, and he told them that he hadn't talked to Nick in over a year and that there was no meeting scheduled for Monday. Heidi did go shopping with a friend at the Mall of America on April 24th of 2010, or Saturday. Nick told the investigators this. He told them he gave her about $30 to $40 to spend because they were tight on money. However, receipts showed that Heidi spent $218.46. That's a lot more than $30 to $40. Also, the friend told investigators that Heidi didn't appear nervous or upset about money, and that she was looking for a dress for a friend's wedding in the fall. One of the last email exchanges between Heidi and Nick happened on Friday, April 23rd of 2010, and Heidi forwarded Nick an email from a friend that invited the couple to get together with a group of friends that night at a restaurant. Nick responded by saying, "Oh, I'm okay with that as long as I can have you to myself tomorrow night." A very ominous message after you learn about what happened. The investigators looked around the crime scene to find out what happened, did DNA swabs, and there wasn't any unknown profiles found, only Heidi's and Nick's. It was quite obvious that Nick Firkus was guilty of murdering his wife in cold blood. But for some reason, it took 11 years to finally convict him and charge him with murder. Nick was able to go on and marry another woman named Rachel and have 3 kids with her, living as if he didn't do anything wrong. Rachel has a sister that has a blog, and she wrote this after Nick and Rachel got married. "Rachel got married. I have to share my little sister. At least I share her with Nick Firkus now. One of our best friends for 6 years is now my brother-in-law. Let's just say brother. Nick Firkus is my brother. Wow. In so many ways, I am so thankful for Nick. I feel like he saved my little sister. For that, I will always adore him. I got to watch him be married once to one of my best friends who passed away. He was incredible with Heidi. I don't have to wonder what he's going to be like with Rachel. I don't have to have that sister talk to threaten him if he ever hurts Rachel, because I already know he won't. I don't have to learn who he is and pretend to trust him. I trust him with all of my heart. He fits perfectly in my family. I'm excited for the holidays and family vacations. He will be there from now on. I love watching my sister's face when they are together. She is safe and happy. What more could a big sister want? I love you, Nick and Rachel. Little did she know how truly evil Nick was. As to why it took so long to arrest him, I don't know, but fortunately, it did happen. In May of 2021, Nicholas Firkus was arrested and charged with murder. 2 years would pass, and on February 10th of 2023, he was found guilty and will be sentenced on April 13th. It's believed that he did this to save himself from having to tell Heidi about their financial troubles. What a scumbag. Heidi Marie Firkus was a very sweet, kind individual who had nothing but good intentions for this world. She was charming and loved by all of her friends, family, and neighborhood. Heidi was super religious and often dubbed as a sweet, innocent girl. It's very upsetting knowing that she had zero idea of what was going on and couldn't have prevented this. I really hope that she's with the Lord now and resting peacefully. But anyways, thank you for watching this episode of High Time Crime. If true crime is your thing, then please subscribe and hit the like button because that's all we do. I also have a second account with my brother named Horrifying, where we tell stories about everything paranormal. This includes true crime, mysteries, and things that are just downright spooky. I'd greatly appreciate if you subscribe to that too. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care, friend.